Hello, everyone, and welcome to the live webinar of the Goverlan Reach Solution. My name is Pascal Peugeot, CEO of Goverlan Inc., and we're very proud and pleased to actually introduce to you our latest new baby, Goverlan Reach, just released this week. I am pleased also to introduce to you my gurus, Goverlan gurus, Victor Cruz, as well as Raul Audits. I think that for some of our clients, you already know them, familiar faces. Again, with no further ado, please enjoy the demo.
Should you be here? Who is Goverlan Reach for? IT departments, of course.
Of course, that's the tried and true. That's everybody who loves us right now. We're expanding our feature set to include those of us who worked in the MSP space, and as well as the software vendors and kiosk people. We're making Goverlan. We're bringing that Goverlan love to you guys, the MSPs and kiosk support people.
Yeah. And what's Goverlan Reach's primary offerings? Of course, our secure remote desktop access.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, you just got to get that keyboard, video, and mouse, man.
And then we have our background management, diagnostics, and monitoring. And that's basically, we want to move you away from having to interrupt your users with a remote control session. We want you to lean away from that and lean more towards being able to manage your users without interrupting them and doing these complex tasks like printer stuff and deploying software, patch management, all that jazz that we like to do.
Absolutely, and we had the Spiceworks survey that we did a while back, and it was a survey that said, what's one of the most annoying things about doing IT? And the survey reported back, dealing with users. Dealing with users was the most annoying thing. So here at Goverlan, we like to use that as a little keystone. Don't deal with the users. Background management. That's all you need.
100%. And of course, global endpoint management via automation so that you can turn Goverlan, make Goverlan a little bit more of an automated tool for you. So on top of you doing your standard tool set stuff in your day-to-day, you can automate some tasks as well that are time consuming.
Absolutely.
So why consider Goverlan Reach?
That's a good question.
It's secure.
It is.
It's powerful.
It is.
It's scalable.
It is. And it's awesome.
It's very awesome.
So some of the things here, I mean, when it comes to security, we take that very, very seriously. These days, everyone is very cloud minded. They want to move everything into the cloud to control everything they can from anywhere, which is great.
And give up their machines.
Yeah, give up their machines and give up all their security, which is great. But the thing is, when you have a remote management solution, you're giving your key to the kingdom to someone else. We're telling you, as taboo as it may seem, take your remote management back. Bring it back to the infrastructure where you can control it and you have the privileged access that you need to make sure that it's working right. So in the security part, that's something that we're actually making a little U-turn on, coming back to the organization.
And of course, the power of Goverlan.
Of course, I mean, Goverlan is powerful, man. You can do just about anything you want, especially when we get to the process automation part. Forget about it. I mean, you're going to be in there using your imagination to put together automations to accomplish some amazing things.
And of course, it's designed for all different types of organizations, from your MSPs to your enterprises, your Active Directory, also your non-Active Directory and your workgroup organizations as well.
Absolutely.
So you don't have to worry about that.
Scalable means share the love.
Yes, 100%. Now, going on into the subject of your external devices, we accomplished the ability to manage these devices through our Goverlan Reach server, which includes Goverlan Reach Gateway Services. And what this is a 100% software-based appliance. You don't need any hardware or anybody to come in and install a hardware in your infrastructure, find room in your rack, in your server rack, anything like that. You can install it already on a virtual machine or a box that you already have set up with multiple roles as well. We have Reach set up on one of our domain controllers too. Just to show you how versatile the Reach server software is when it comes to scalability and where you need to install it.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to Goverlan, Goverlan is, for anybody who's been to Outback Steakhouse, the Bloomin' Onion. It's the Bloomin' Onion here. We have the core services that you can download, install, use right away. Then on top of that, you can add layers to it in order to expand its functionality outside the organization and really rein in anything that you need to that might be out there in the wild and just help anyone, really.
100%. And that's basically your gateway from your internal to your external. Now let's jump into the demo.
About time. So just as Victor's getting that set up, I just wanted to make the point here that Goverlan, when it comes down to it, is something that you can download and install, begin to use day one. Its agents are managed, self-managed. We take a lot of information that you have already for your organization and we put it into one nice, neat little package. And then on top of that, as I was saying before, once you add the gateway, the Reach gateway, you're going to expand that same functionality to outside of your organization as well. So that's something that's really, really important, the seamlessness of being able to help people in or out of the organization.
Yeah, so here's our Goverlan Reach console. And as you can see, our UI, we have a dark theme as well. We also have a light theme available for those who don't like the dark theme. And this is our welcome page.
Yeah, now here's where you're going to go to get all your resources for Goverlan. One thing that we've added here is the IT Automation Center, which we'll expand on in a little while. But that's definitely something that's going to be a nice bullet point for this screen.
All right, so here's the console itself, and basically we want you to not have to install a whole bunch of different apps to do your standard database stuff, like open RDP to remote into a machine, open your software deployment tool and all that. Goverlan has it all in its console, and it's comprised of these three modules: our administration and diagnostics, your process automations, and your remote control. So immediately diving into our admin and diagnostics, you can go ahead and see that we have it split up into two sections: your internal network and your external devices. So let's start off with internal. Say we have a user here on the right using our search bar, as you can see here, by the name of Aaron Woods that needs us to assist him.
The infamous Aaron Woods.
The infamous Aaron Woods.
The infamous Aaron.
So here on the right, we have our search, which is a wildcard search. So I know his name is Aaron Woods. His username is A Woods, but I'm just going to type
Who knows? I mean, we've seen some of these organizations. You guys have some crazy naming conventions.
So as you can see here, we have two accounts that are actually coming up with Aaron Woods, A Woods, should we say. So we go ahead and hit set focus. And what Goverlan is going to do is it's automatically going to point you to the OU on where Aaron Woods is located and reveal some of the tools available. Immediately, you can just go ahead and double click logged in workstations. And what Goverlan is going to use is its proprietary technology through the Reach server, by the way, to automatically know where your users are logged into live sessions. So this right here, we know for a fact that Aaron Woods, he's an IT guy. He's currently logged into
Yeah, what I don't understand, Microsoft, if you're listening, why didn't you do this a long time ago? Seriously, this is something that is as simple as it is implemented. It makes your life so much easier. How many times you have to go through spreadsheets to figure out where people are, or inventory management software?
My favorite is naming your computers after your users.
That's a good one.
And then when that user's gone, you have to rename the machine and then rename it to the new user.
That's it. Yeah. So here we do that work for you. We find the user to the machine, and you can find them and start helping them right away. That's one less interaction over there.
And that's one of the functionalities that comes along with the Reach server. On top of handling your gateway services between your internal and external devices, it also handles your logged in workstation detection, auditing, and some other cool stuff that we can dive into a little later. And then, of course, it's free. It's just completely optional, and it's not required to use Goverlan itself.
Right, that server component is
100%.
It's just a layer that really adds to the function.
Yeah, so Goverlan automatically, by the way, once you launch the console, it'll use a serverless binding to go ahead and attempt to find your Active Directory infrastructure if you do have one. And it will also use whatever permissions that the user that's running it has on an Active Directory level. So if you're a domain admin, you don't have to go ahead and set up a whole new account. Goverlan will automatically use those credentials.
Or if you are using a delegation in Active Directory, if you delegate these OUs can be managed by specific people, that'll already be there. And just as a quick side note, we have the ability to impersonate other credentials if you're using something like admin accounts and so on.
Yeah, through our credential manager. And it's cross-domain as well. So if you have more than one domain that you manage, in the upper right-hand corner, we have our Active Directory forest selector. So you can go ahead and manage multiple forests, and using our credential manager, enter those admin creds for that, and Goverlan will respect whatever you have set in your credential manager. So jumping right back into where Aaron Woods is at, you can see these are the machines. We'll go ahead and right-click one of them and go to set focus here. And what Goverlan's going to do is it's going to take you to the OU of where the machine is located and reveal all of the tool sets that Goverlan has to go ahead and manage these machines.
Yep.
And as you can see, these tools have some names that we're used to. It's the
Absolutely.
standard naming convention of Windows.
One of the great things about Goverlan is that we do not try to recreate the wheel. Once you see these tools, you will know what to do with them because they're already things that are visually you're going to understand. So that's a huge learning curve that you don't have to come to. We decided at this point, you don't have to learn how to IT like we do. We have to learn how to do it like you do. So if you're used to all these Windows tools, this is going to do it for you.
So I won't dive into them because they're all pretty much self-explanatory, but we do have one of our proprietary tools, which is System Info. This is one of my favorite tools because it gives you one specific area to go to access the most commonly needed info that us as IT guys need, from your serial number of your machine, your service tags, Windows info, what key they're using, BIOS info. We dive right into hardware and one of my favorite tools, the detailed information. The memory. I mean,
Absolutely.
how many times has us as IT guys need to upgrade someone's RAM, have to go under their desk, open up that machine and see how much maximum slots
Yeah,
that RAM
you got to
has?
calculate your sticks. And then when you end up doing that, you end up with dust bunnies and all kinds of crazy stuff that might be under a desk.
Yeah, so with Goverlan, we tap into the hardware as well, so you can see what memory is going on when it comes to some of the hardware, like video info and drive info as well when it comes to that. Here. All right, and then we dive down into the network settings, self-explanatory, a splash screen of the commonly used network info. You can modify the network adapters directly through this interface. And again, anything that we're doing here is in the background, so we're not interrupting our users while we're trying to query this information.
At all.
This
They
is
can stay right where they
100%
are.
live, yeah. We query this information, by the way, through the Goverlan agent.
Right.
The Goverlan agent is the coup de grace for Goverlan, and that's what Goverlan communicates directly to. Right. This is where you get your direct live information. There's no middleman when it comes to your internal network with querying your direct your machines. It's a direct live query from those machines that are active. Then we have our login events down here at the bottom, and it's a little bit of auditing we have here. So anyone who's ever signed into the machine, you have an audit log of that, as well as anyone who's remote controlled it using Goverlan.
Absolutely. And one good thing to note here is that once you add the Goverlan Reach Server component, you take all of this auditing plus a ton more, and you centralize it into one location. So when the compliance people are coming knocking at your door and saying, who remote controlled this machine or who installed something on that machine at whatever time, you will have a complete picture and an answer to give them.
That was our Sysinfo tool. Now I'm jumping, into our task manager.
This is another one of my favorites.
Yeah, so the task manager is basically our proprietary tool that is just like the Windows task manager, but with a little bit of Goverlan spunk added to it. So as you can see here, this is all, by the way, being pulled directly from the agent without interrupting the user, so the user, again, is unaware of all of this. So we add a little bit more to the task manager by organizing processes by username, going to processes and seeing what processes are open. We have our top 5 users, which is a tab that we added of CPU, disk I/O, and memory and network for when you're trying to monitor the machine and see what's going on.
Yep.
Our performance tab and our graphs, which, by the way, if you highlight any of them, you'll see them by process of what's using memory and CPU and disk.
This is another one where I'm just amazed at how we don't have this information yet with some of the other tools, because we can stare at graphs all day. But if there is no indication as to what happened at that time, then the graph to me is useless. Yep. I want to know what caused the peak at that time. I want to know what is consuming disk activity or something like that. Yep. And this is something that we overlay right there for you.
And then we'll jump into the networking tab, one of my favorites. And this is where you can dive in and see not only what processes are using each part of the receive and sending of the network card itself, but you can break it down by peaks. And see what processes are using the most network usage on that machine. So for those users that you're trying to find who are downloading too much stuff, you can go ahead and jump right into And then, of course, you have the standard startup programs that you can access inside of the task manager.
Yeah. So again, it's one of those things that once you see it, you're going to know what to do with it. and it just gives you so much more detail.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the flavors of the Goverlan agent, because this is
Sure.
basically what we're doing here. We're accessing all of these tools directly to the Goverlan agent. And what about our external devices?
Yeah.
So the cool thing about the Goverlan agent is that it comes in different flavors. So the first scenario we have is your internal network devices. You have your laptop, for example, that you're provisioning. You add it to your Active Directory. You provision it. You shoot out your Goverlan agent to it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you install the Goverlan agent through the console, by the way, which you can use the console to automatically install it if you like, it's going to push all of your gateway settings, your reach gateway server settings to it. So if that laptop leaves your network, goes home, connects to that home network, the reach agent is going to know, hey, I'm not internal anymore. Let me go ahead and register myself
It's smart.
to the reach server.
It's really smart.
So as you can see here, once those agents register them to your reach server, they'll automatically appear under the external devices area.
That's right. And one of the things just to mention is that it's a seamless transition. So when the machine leaves the network, it knows it's out there. You begin to manage it outside the network. When it's in the network, you know, it's not something that you're going to think about. And the great part of that is that you don't have to use a tool, right? So let's say you were in your help desk scenario and you use tool set A to manage the machines inside and then tool set B to manage the machines outside. We're bringing that all under one umbrella here for you. And that's really one of the most powerful things that we have going on.
Yeah, and eliminating that internal and external barrier that we're used to as IT guys, especially with different apps. And once that agent registers itself back to your reach server, it organizes itself under whatever OU it is originally in. So you don't have to go on ahead and go reorganizing those machines that jump off your network. And once you go into whatever OU they're in, you're going to get the same interface that you had with your internal devices, right? So from there, you have your standard tool sets that you're used to with your internal devices. And that's basically how we're eliminating that external and internal device.
The divide.
The divide, should be said. And then we have, what about those scenarios where that machine has never hit your network? That's where we have the Goverlan on-demand feature. And we actually have somebody here who's going to help us here. Are you there, sir?
Yes, I am. I'm the troubled user. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly. Okay, so I'm going to start sharing my console just to show them how we go ahead and set up this quick on-demand assistance. So down here in the bottom right, we have our little on-demand assist area. We simply hit a send request. Then we have two options here to generate a client email, copy the link to clipboard, and then we have an enable permanent install option, which we'll dive into once you see the client and on the opposite side. This is so that you can allow that on-demand session and that user to become an unattended machine, a part of your external devices.
Right. You basically adopt it into your family. That's what you're doing. You're taking that machine and you're bringing it into your family, and you can then manage it administratively.
So here you'll see that automatically Goverlan will pop up your default email client if you have one set up, and goes ahead and gives you this standard verbiage here. So that'll send over to Pascal. So if you send it over to him.
Send him spam.
So if you want, you can go ahead and start sharing your screen.
So this is on my side. So I will have received that email from Victor. And just as an indication, what you see here, the actual text can be branded. So whenever you configure your Goverlan Reach Server Gateway Services, you can specify your company name, and all of the actual information will trickle down to the process, and the entire experience will be branded with your information. So it's not going to say Goverlan Inc. demo. It's going to say your company name. And here the user will simply just download the very lightweight Goverlan Reach client. Obviously, again, this landing page is the default landing page, which is provided by our company, but this is brandable. You can have your own. Actually, we have our own ourselves. So you can completely brand the experience. And then once you have the Reach client, you open it. So again, it's going to say your company name here, and at this stage, since Victor had enabled permanent install, then I have two options. I can either provide administrative access, which allows the operator to bypass the USC form, see them, and actually approve them So it gives admin privilege to local machines. And I can also authorize permanent access, which would actually permanently make this node available, whether the user is there or not. So that would grant unattended access to this machine as soon as the machine is turned on by default. And you can also disable this. Again, you can disable it for all of your operators. You don't have to show this. It's an option. As soon as you click a remote support sessions, then obviously as standard process dictates, a session ID is actually generated. Now here, what you're going to see, which is interesting, is that we treat security very importantly, and there will be a server identity verified button on the end user side, proving that actually, the company supporting them is who they say they are. So I think you see my session ID, Victor. This is 266998243.
Yeah, let me start sharing my screen, and that way I'll go ahead and show you guys my end.
So while Victor's connecting here, this challenge code method, it allows you to jump onto somebody's system, and it's registered on our server so we can connect and begin using all the tools for these machines that are outside.
What was the code again? 266?
266998243.
There we go.
So once we hit connect, you're going to see that the user is going, or the session number will appear down below, and you just click on it, and you're going to get access to the tool sets, some of the tool sets that you have in the administration and diagnostics. And if you want to go ahead and initiate a remote control session, you can. We can go ahead and manage the programs on the machine, Windows updates, and all this stuff without even having to interrupt him. But in this case, we can go ahead and just hit remote control. What's going to happen is that the remote control module will start up and automatically remote into his machine.
Hey, we got a little remote control inception happening there.
Yeah. So this is basically our remote control console here. And you get access to some basic tools like File Manager, your command prompt power options and such. You can drag and drop files onto there and even access the Task Manager if needed. You have the on-demand assist here in this console as well with the same exact features. And you can organize your machines here if you like into favorites, containers, Active Directory you'll use, IP ranges,
External sites.
and of course your external sites as well.
So one thing to note here, once you add the Reach server and you're getting this, this external access, what you're able to do at this point is there's a couple good areas to consider here. So number one, you might be in an environment where you have a co-location and you need to manage those machines that are on the DR site. You can actually set up a server, a secondary server on this site that will connect and join these sites to you. That also includes anyone who's an MSP and they need to be able to manage a company that they're supporting. You can set up a secondary server there, and it will bring them into the fold, if you will, and bring all of Goverlan's features into to the availability of those sites.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and disconnect from this user here.
Yeah, hang it up.
Just jumping real quick into our remote control module. When you want to do that KVM access, this is another demonstration of how we want you to step away from having to use multiple apps to do standard stuff that you like to do. So say you don't want to use the Goverlan agent to connect to a machine and you like RDP, you can go ahead and RDP those machines that you want internally do standard RDP protocol and directly through the Goverlan app. So you don't have to launch MSTSC or the remote desktop app. Same thing with VNC. So if you have Mac OSs or Linux machines that you want to remote into, you can use the VNC client to do so. And by the way, we do have a Mac compatible agent on the roadmap for 2017. So
big things coming to Reach. Big
things. But for right now, we're Windows OS only. And now when it comes to your command prompt and you're telling it an SSHing for your network devices and your switches and stuff like that, you can go ahead and do that all directly through your same Goverlan interface.
How many times do you find yourself in an IT job where you're basically the jack of all trades?
Yeah.
Right? So you're the network guy, the email guy, help desk guy, and so on. You can grab something like Goverlan, a tool like this, and then use it for all of your services that you have. So 1 minute you might have to get into the switch, you telnet or SSH into the switch, then you might have to RDP into an IIS server, and then you might have to Goverlan remote control into someone's desktop.
Yep.
So really advertising ourselves as the Swiss Army knife. Okay, everything.
Yeah, and what you saw when it comes to the on-demand assist, that agent that was sent to him is the same exact agent that the internal client uses. There's no difference between the internal and the external agent. They're both the same entity, and the agent itself has the ability to become an on-demand and has that on-demand feature built into it, as well as your automatic reach communication for those unattended machines. And then besides your KVM access and your backend access when it comes to your one-to-one situations, like accessing your machines, we have our process automations. And this is where we're going to get a little bit deeper into managing your network as a whole and getting a little bit of more control over a group of machines and doing things a lot more quickly that take a lot of time when you're using different and separate tools that are
Absolutely. I mean, there's been plenty of times I could tell you where I'm using certain products that are, you know, those big best of breeds, they call them. But if you need to do something like a software update on 1,000 machines on a night, that system can take hours to do it. Whereas something like Goverlan, you can really blast out a software update to machines that are inside or outside the network, especially with the Reach Gateway now. And nothing is ever going to be perfect. When you see those other systems, they leave you, what, 20%? Now you got to go to that 20% and see, well, why did they fail?
Yep.
Here with Goverlan, it's very deterministic. It's going to tell you right away, and you actually have the time to figure out what's going on with those extra machines that might be offline or something like that.
Correct, and that's one of the things where you get real serious when it comes to the power of Goverlan with process automation. So I'm going to go through a quick one of a simple report that we want to do when it comes to figuring out who has Java installed, for example, across machines. So we can put Java, and that's it. We can put a description if we like, organize it into categories. We'll go ahead and hit next. Here we're going to start with what type of objects we want to manage. We want to manage computers. We can add computers by container, Active Directory OU, and then and even external machines as well, and set those up as templates. So in the future, if you want to quickly create an automation, we just go ahead and drag and drop them. This is all shareable to your team as well, as long as everybody's connected to the same database, which those are a little technical stuff that we can get into a little later if we want to. But here's, we selected an Active Directory OU, and we're going to go ahead and use our demo machines. Then from there, we're going to go into the actual automation itself. In this case, we want to simply create a report. So up top, we're going to hit Add Remove, go to Report. And as you can see here, these are all pretty much self-explanatory stuff that information that we like to access on our remote machines. So like computer OS info, and we dive into all that stuff when it comes to that file system, printers, hardware info. And this is all the same type of info that you were able to access and execute within the administration and diagnostics tool. So again, when you don't have a learning curve when it comes to this, it's the same tools and naming conventions that you're used to within Goverlan. So in this case, I just want to use our search box up top and put software. And I'm going to go ahead and get the software product's name, version, and in this case, install date. Now, if I run this report against that OU, it's going to give me every single name, version, and date for every app. But in this case, we're just looking for Java. So that's where we're going to get into the only if the following is true area. This is your conditions. Goverlan basically will do whatever you say up here in the actions area, only if the bottom area, what is true and what's set in the condition area. So if we come here to add remove, we're going to go back to software again, and we're going to search for it. And we're going to search by the product name. And the condition, we'll just say begins with, because Java likes to put its versions in the title name. So I know for a fact it starts with the word Java.
So you want to catch everything. One of the great things about the condition field here is that it's very, I would say it's kind of like regex or very, it's keyword searching. That's what's basically happening here. And what that allows you to do is really get flexible with the kind of things that you want to report. Because sometimes you just never know. You know, there comes to that phase when you're about to do an application rollout, there's that intelligence gathering phase. What do I have out there now? You may not know specific version numbers and so on. So doing something like this is going to just bring that information right back to your fingertips.
Yes, and on top of that, you don't even need to use the condition area for reporting as well. You can do it for executing actions like installing a software package. Here in Goverlan, you can pre-create software packages, MSIs or EXEs, include those switches if you need to make them silent, and go ahead and quickly deploy them. And I'll show you one of those software packages, for example, like Adobe Reader. I put one of our network paths where the EXE is. I had to go to Adobe's site to figure out the silent switch because every single vendor has their own
way,
silent switches. So you have to make sure you go to their support site to confirm, because Goverlan can't guess what switches they are. Only if it's an MSI, because MSIs have all universal switches when it comes to at least silent installs, but there are other switches that other apps may need. You can pre-configure that. You can share those with your techs, and then go ahead and use Goverlan to deploy this software only if the following is true. So in this case, I could have selected Java instead and said, install Java on any machine whose product name begins with Java.
So that's actually helpful if you're doing like an upgrade.
Yeah.
Right. So you might want to say, install this version of Java when this version or lower exists. And then you might want to do an upgrade.
Yeah. So we'll just go ahead and quickly run this report. Oh, and again, one of the things with conditions, you can go even farther into IP address. So if you only want to manage machines that are on a specific subnet, or if their computer OS is equal to server, for example, to be able to only execute this against machines that have the server OS, you can go real deep into there when it comes to conditions itself. But we're just going to touch the top of it with a simple report here. And then finally, we can save those into templates. Goverlan will execute these actions in order, so you can stack them up to do multiple things at once.
Yep.
And finally, we'll go into the last area, which you can go ahead and schedule this action. And that's where Goverlan will turn into an automated app. Goverlan is very ad hoc in nature, but we want you to go ahead and set it up into the way you want it to run. So this is where you turn Goverlan into that automated side, where you run it on a schedule, daily, weekly, and you can go ahead and use that for executing software actions, running reports for auditing reasons and compliance, and other stuff that you want, like monitoring, for example. If you wanted to monitor a specific process, you can dive into that as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of software out there right now that's basically what they call run-book automation. RBA is the process of, if this happens, do something else, and then do another couple steps behind that. With Goverlan scope actions and the conditions and all the logic you can build into your automations, you can detect if a server is in a specific configuration and then perform actions based on that. So it really can help out, especially in the infrastructure world or the data center world, where you're trying to keep track of things and monitor, but use intelligence to do it.
And again, these automations work both with your devices that are internal and external. So as long as you have the Goverlan agent on them, then you can go ahead and execute these actions on it. And this is where you're going to take complete control over not only your internal machines, but all those machines that may be on a business trip.
Wait.
And you need to update their
You're
Java.
telling me that I can do all of this on machines that are outside the network too?
Yeah. So we get that control back for those machines that are out business trip, for example,
Exactly.
and they need a software update. And instead of having only your internal machines and waiting for them to come back, you can go ahead and execute it on those. Finally, we have a couple different formats for reporting, HTML, Excel, and CSV for those who like those CSV and Excel formats. So we'll just go ahead and here to the table, finish, and we'll run that report. So you'll just see here how Goverlan, how quickly it is to go ahead and run against those machines in that OU, and it's going to automatically convert the report for you. As you can see here, this is the report. This is one of our HTML reports, which actually is my favorite because it's completely interactive. You can organize it by the columns. The owner column is the whatever scope you had. So in this case, it was OUs. So that's why you see that source here, demo workstations. When we queried it, which was a live query. By the way, anytime you query any of this data, it gets stored in the Shared Data Database, which basically is a SQL DB that you can set up, whether it be file-based or through a SQL server. And basically, this allows you to go ahead and enable sharing of your packages as your team collaboration, but as well as a shared data technology, which allows you to store this data. So if that machine is ever offline, you can go ahead and request that data in the future.